Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Mayor, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay.
You in witness protection today?
Oh, no. You know what? I'm at home. Let me get some light on the subject here. Is that any better?
If
You've
you
got
like
some tone
backlight,
there.
it's beautiful.
Huh?
Backlighting is always beautiful.
Yeah.
You're trying to take a photograph of somebody's face, though, it doesn't work very well.
There you go. Yeah.
I turned it a little bit. There we go.
Definitely better.
Okay. Well, maybe not.
Go back to where you were.
I was there and then I wasn't. Let's see. Well, I'm on witness protection, I guess.
We'll do. We'll do.
Oh,
Some more light on the subject here. Nope. Let me turn on. That ain't gonna. I gotta turn these off.
Just need one of the dogs to hold a flashlight in its mouth for you.
There
yeah,
you go.
that's a good one.
Usually I'm at the office and is it better or worse?
Same.
Oh,
Nope, no different. There you
oh,
go.
there you go.
All right.
What'd you do?
I just tilted the camera up a little bit.
Oh,
Gotta
There you
love
go.
technology.
that looks good. Yep, there you
Yeah, I just tilted the camera up just a touch. Hallelujah. Now it's down again. Who knows? The clouds are going over or something here. There we are. I'm good. Yeah, it's the camera. It's going in and out. I'm not touching anything. I got my technician in the background taking lampshades off. So Bruce is not going to be with us this evening,
Okay, thank you.
is what I was told, so.
Okay. What about Jeff? Is he gonna be with us?
Jeff is not going to be with us either. That's why you can't see my eyes. I've got a terrible sty. I had a sty in one eye and I went to the other.
Mm.
And we're gonna need a flag.
Oh. How about,
Hmm.
is this okay?
That's appropriate flag, yes.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Always a little trauma. Comes to IT stuff.
Jason, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Andy.
Thanks a lot, Jason. You helped me out.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Jason,
I
do
have-
we have a quorum yet?
Yeah,
We do, okay.
You have the best of the best right now.
Three trustees and the mayor.
Yeah, let's, it is, I got 5:31, so let's call the meeting to order and we can rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance To the flag of the United States of America,
To
to the republic, for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible.
indivisible, with liberty,
and justice for all.
justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Sir, Mayor Maglio,
I am here.
trustee Berkshire is absent. Trustee Devitt is absent. Trustee Domke,
I'm here.
trustee Poleski,
Here.
trustee Sarno,
Here,
trustee Trejo,
Here.
we have a quorum.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept this evening's presentation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Trustee Domke,
Hi.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Sarno,
aye.
trustee Poleski,
Aye.
and that's it.
Okay, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the village board is being done virtually and will be streamlined on the village's YouTube page for further. Do we have any public comments this evening?
Do. Yep.
And would be so kind to present that.
Comment is from Erin Reddick. She asks, could you please discuss adding a push button triggered flashing pedestrian crossing sign at the Irving Park crossing at Pinecroft? The closest protected crosswalks for Irving Park are at Maple or Medina, and it is very dangerous to cross at Pinecroft. My family and I frequently cross at Pinecroft to reach the train station and the businesses next to the train station. With the addition of the new apartments on north side of Irving Park, population density in that area will increase significantly, and I feel that a safer crossing option is warranted. People regularly jaywalk straight across from the train station, and I feel this is because there is no added safety by using the designated crosswalk at Pinecroft. Depending on the time of day, traffic can be very heavy in this area, and most cars are going around 40 miles an hour. There is an additional danger here as well due to the lane quantity increasing and decreasing on Irving Park in the same location. From my cursory research, the cost for 4 solar powered signs with push buttons that wirelessly communicate with each other would be around $8,500. 4 signs would cover all corners of the intersection and greatly increase safety and visibility in this location. Thank you for your hard work and consideration, Erin Reddick. Second,
Go ahead, you have two. I'm sorry.
our second comment is from Larry Saxton, and he states his comment is the village needs to take a serious look at its restaurant COVID policy coming into fall. All of the restaurants are struggling to stay open as it is now. They need help. I don't want to see Roselle lose any more businesses and jobs. And the last one is from Abby Cannon, and she states the board released the Envision Roselle results at its June 22nd meeting, which called for working groups to be formed. Given the national conversation on race and equality, when does the village plan to start convening these groups? I see other cities and towns around us addressing racism and leading conversations within their communities, yet Roselle stays silent. We must and can do better. Sincerely, Abby Cannon. And that's all for comments.
Okay, Jason, we would have to contact IDOT for the Irving Park. Am I correct or not?
Yeah, the Irving Park will require the village to submit a permit to them, request, that includes a design to submit to them to see if they would allow for the type of improvement along Irving for pedestrian crossing that was previously discussed with the board at a past village board meeting. Staff is working on that and still intends on submitting that application to IDOT. And then the cost of that project would need to be prioritized through the budget process by the village board.
And then as far as the Roselle Envision, David, just because of the COVID, we've been kind of on the back side of that right now. Is that my understanding?
Yes, I think we had intended to do a town hall meeting in April that we were unable to actually do due to the COVID restrictions. And I believe we've been waiting to have an opportunity to roll it out to the group. Maybe there's an opportunity for us to do that virtually or to kind of maybe evaluate opening up some of these ad hoc groups sooner. But that was our last status update from the Envision Roselle process.
Okay, and if that could be looked at and just let us know at a later date, that would be most helpful.
Absolutely.
And then, Jason, we are continuously working with Brian on contact with all of our restaurants and everything to keep us in the utmost operating status that we possibly can. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you for presenting those public comments to us. And then I would like to ask, go into officials and staff report. I would like to ask for a motion to adopt a resolution extending the declaration of state of emergency approved by the village board on August 10th, 2020.
So moved.
I would second that. But I would also ask you, Andy, is there any credence in doing it for the rest of the year? Or are we supposed to do it in these smaller increments?
We're going to do it. I think, Mr. Knippen, isn't it true that we have to do that on a timely basis to keep extending that?
That's correct. And we've been on that schedule. So
Okay,
Yeah, that we can't.
that's the reason.
Yeah, we cannot do it for the rest of the year, Wayne, and just like I just asked is the reasoning why we have to keep on.
I didn't know.
doing that in case something comes up that we could just go forth and get back to regular business. We will do that as soon as possible.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call on that motion, please?
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye,
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Devitt. I'm sorry, trustee Poleski.
Aye.
Okay, and our motion is carried. Second on my agenda here is consideration for a request by Sammy's Mexican Grill at 1354 Lake Street for a Class T liquor license, which would bring them the video gaming. And I'm bringing this to you because we changed the ordinance where we can add more of these licensing to what our ordinance was. I'm bringing this to the board to see what their comments on it. This will be number 7 in the stretch between Gary and Springfield. So I just wanted to make sure that we are aware of that. And I wanted to hear the feelings of the board and what their thoughts are.
Sorry, could you repeat that? That brings us up to how many between Gary and Springfield?
This will be number 7.
Okay. Thank you.
Any thoughts for the consideration?
I could say that I used to be somewhat against this stuff, but I gotta say that at this point in time, whatever the businesses need to try to stay afloat, if he thinks there's enough people that are gonna use his gaming machines, I would be in favor of letting him have it.
Mr. Trejo?
I'm fine with it. I mean, it's a legal activity that was approved by the board, so I'm okay with
Oh,
proceeding.
we still have justification on how the license are issued. So,
I agree, but I'm okay with providing another license.
all right, Barb.
I agree. I think we should do it.
All righty then. I would thank you for your comments and we'll move on. For discussion and consideration, a text amendment amending Appendix A, zoning of the Roselle zoning ordinance to establish short-term rentals as permitted residential use subject to conditions. Any discussion? Everybody read that memo? David?
I'll say I like the idea of us doubling the fines. I think it adds a little bit more reinforcement ability on our side. And I appreciate the consideration of staff to keep an eye on monitoring these websites. I know that goes above and beyond some of the things that we ask them to do, but I think that's a good way for us to keep an eye on it. My only reservation, I would still approve it in this way. I just don't know if with the current, I feel comfortable, I guess, with what we've written in here for remediation and for the regulations, that I don't know if the no less than 3 days is as applicable anymore. I guess that to me is harder to enforce. And at the end of the day, if we have the means like we've outlined here, that becomes less important to me than it was before. And then we still can't shut anyone down. And that's my only part that I'm a little bit hesitant on, but I know we can't do that. So I think for what we can do with zoning, this is a really good step.
Wayne?
Typically we don't, let me answer a legal question here. Typically, we don't have authority to shut anything down. If the situation, however, becomes really egregious to the point where it becomes a public nuisance, then we may have that option available to us. So it would, however, have to get pretty bad in order for us to be able to accomplish that. So I just wanted to get that out there to make that clear from an option standpoint.
Wayne, did you have something you wanted to add to
I
that?
have a bunch of questions I just wanted to ask for clarification, and I do agree that, there's a lot of meat in this one, and I liked all the details and of how it would be administered. But I wanted to ask some questions. One of them was, I thought we were going to notify near neighbors that there was a B&B going on, and I didn't see that in any of the text that I read this morning. I don't know if that was purposefully dropped or what.
I think I can answer that question, Wayne. There were suggestions made at the board meeting that were made by single trustees. And if we didn't hear what I would characterize as multiple trustees agreeing that that was something that was good, it didn't end up in the ordinance because it came from a single trustee. That is something, if a majority of trustees believe it's appropriate, can clearly be placed in the ordinance. But as you ask those questions, that's a reason that some of those things that were discussed don't necessarily appear in the ordinance at this point.
I see.
You could add me as a second trustee that supports that. I think people should be able to, should know that that's going on. That way they could kind of keep an eye out if there's anything that's getting out of hand.
Jason?
Just because Patrick and Bruce are on the subcommittee aren't here, it was their recommendation to include that notification. I thought we discussed it would be handled through the application process, through the zoning administrator, that the village would notify abutting property owners. Therefore, it may not be required to be in the zoning ordinance, but instead is a condition through the application process that staff would be notifying properties when properties are approved and registered with the village. And maybe if Jim can confirm that approach is appropriate, or if you still think something should be written.
That's an approach that's perfectly legitimate. That approach may work. It can also be incorporated into the conditions portion of the ordinance as a condition.
Okay.
Make it clear that it can be required by staff in the application, because the application is a registration. And if we don't have it in there and somebody said, no, I don't want to do that, then that could create a problem. So if a majority of the board, and it sounds like it's clear that it is a majority of the board at this point, wants it, I'd recommend incorporating it into the conditions section.
Well, just let me ask a question. Barb, how do you feel? Would you like your neighbors to be notified,
Definitely. I
Okay,
think,
David?
yes, I think that's a good idea.
I think through the registration process, yes.
Okay.
Could I ask a bunch of questions if I have the floor just for a few minutes? And I'll just rattle them off and you can just
Sure.
answer them any which way. They're just questions.
Yeah, no problem.
They're not indictments or anything. how would we know if there are more than 10 people inside? Okay, that's just one thing. What will prevent another renter from the same group from renting the next weekend?
Wait, can I make us connect? Can we get answers to each one? That way,
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so how will we know if there's more than 10 people inside? Are we gonna watch it at 2 in the morning? Are we, how is it
No.
gonna be?
This ordinance is structured, Wayne, to be what I'd characterize as a bookend ordinance with
Uh,
significant enforcement in the middle. The first part of the ordinance is structured to create a notification of deterrence, communicating to people that want to operate quasi-commercial operations in a residential zoning district that the village takes this seriously and that there are requirements that will fall upon them. The second part of this is that the actual enforcement of these come, unfortunately, when there's a violation and an investigation at the end of the day. You would hope that the deterrence that's structured into the ordinance with the conditions would be adequate for most reasonable citizens to follow those conditions, and that you're not going to have much enforcement at the end of the day. But the problem with it is if you decide that you want to monitor this situation to determine how many people are in a structure in the middle period when they're running, you're going to have to know, number one, when specifically they've entered into an agreement for a short-term rental, as opposed to the general concept of they're registered for a short-term rental. Those are two different things. You're going to have to know that. You're going to have the resources to send people out to count the number of people in the residence. If people in the residence do not want to let the police or an inspector in for that, unless you have probable cause to believe that a violation is occurring, they will have the legal right to prohibit you from entering at that point. So enforcing that in the middle is probably not very efficient. It is potentially expensive. And that's the reason it doesn't appear in there, but in the middle of the ordinance, but it appears at the beginning to communicate to people that they should follow those standards. You know, it's a little bit like saying to somebody that they have to have a water temperature control on their shower so people can't scald themselves. You know, sometimes during building inspections, people go out and look at that, but otherwise we don't go into those places, you know, to see whether people have pulled those off their showers. So at the front end, they've got the obligation. At the rear end, if they're in violation and we have evidence of that, they will suffer the consequences of those violations.
So that takes a couple questions off. I want to ask another thing, Jim. How would you define a house party? You know, because you say it shouldn't be a house party.
Right,
What does
right
that-
now.
what does that look like?
Yeah, right now, in the ordinance, we specifically did not define that. And my thinking on that is that when you don't define it, it then under the law has its common meaning. So all you have to do is open up a dictionary and look to see what a party is. And if it's a party, it's a party. And that's the way the courts would interpret it. It's difficult for me to believe based on the definition of the parties that I looked up in the dictionaries that we would get a situation where there would be a whole lot of gray in between. I think you're going to be able to tell whether it's a party or not.
So now I have another question. As a landlord, I have tenants where maybe in the lease, it doesn't say they can't sublet. Can a tenant sublet his apartment to a Airbnb?
No, as the way the ordinance is currently written, only an owner can. The owner it has to be the owner's residence.
Okay,
A,
okay.
and B, they have to vote there and pay the taxes. So no, tenants cannot secure a valid registration to operate a short-term rental as the draft ordinance is written.
Is there anything we can hold as a deposit money-wise from the owner that would also make sure that we get some compensation if we have to, or do we have to always go through the courts?
You know, my opinion is that that's not going to work very well because it's outside the ambit of our zoning authority as a non-home rule.
Mhm. Okay, I think that's about it. You handled all of them. I mean, well, the only other thing is the 3-day term. A a group with a lot of finance could take and rent it for 3 days, but only use it for one. And we know that the Picton one, they had plenty of money. They could have easily bought 3 days worth. How would we stop that?
Again, that relates to that concept of deterrence at the front end, enforcement at the end. Very, very difficult, and I don't think that the posting of bonds for zoning uses is within our home rule authority.
Our non-home rule authority.
Non-home rule authority, excuse me. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
I have this dyslexic problem myself, so. I think that's it. Thank you, Andy, for that floor for that.
Bring to the court's attention that trustee Devitt has joined our meeting.
Got it. Thank you.
All righty. Okay, any other questions?
I have a couple questions.
Yes, I'm sorry, Lee, go ahead, please. I
No
didn't
problem.
hear
Thank you,
you.
Mr. Mayor. The first, I agree with trustee Poleski in terms of that no less than 3 days. I'm not as concerned about that. I mean, one thing that kind of has been thrown around a lot is the whole golf tournament notion. So I think some people come in just for a day to a golf tournament. So if we have a requirement of 3 days, that might deter some of those people, which I don't know that we necessarily intended on doing. I like the fact that we have, I mean, I was talking about insurance, but I do like the fact that we put on the homeowner the costs for extraordinary police services. The only other thing I saw was the consecutive short-term rental leases to the same renters within 6 months are prohibited. That I'm not a favor of. I think if there's someone that comes here on a somewhat regular basis, let's say a family member that found an Airbnb that they like and they're here every other month or whatever, I don't think we should stop them from being able to rent the same location within the same 6-month period.
I think that there's an argument to support that, Lee. Let me just tell you from a legal standpoint what the thinking about this is. In order to sustain any ordinance as constitutional, you have to be able to establish that there's a rational basis for the ordinance. And under the Equal Protection Clause, and this is the significant element of this, the rational basis has to be equal to all persons within a category, i.e. zoning users under the circumstances. The longer the period of time that the rentals are available with any particular purpose, the less it becomes a short-term rental ordinance, and the more it would fall into the category of people that may be renting as boarders and things like that. And once you start to blend those concepts into a short-term rental ordinance, you open up the possibility that an attack on the ordinance from a constitutional standpoint may succeed. So one of the things, for example, that the ordinance currently says is that the longest short-term rental period is 30 days. Some communities keep it down to 7 or 14 to really keep it tight on short-term rentals. If you get somebody who comes in regularly and ends up renting it for 6 months and just has a day in between the rentals because maybe they're flying or something like that, then the 30 days that you've got in there right now loses all meaning. So that's the thinking behind it. If you think that we should modify that to allow more rentals within a 6-month period, that's something we could do. But the more of them we do, the more at risk the ordinance is from a legal standpoint.
Got it. Well, I guess what's the definition? It says consecutive short-term rental leases. So what, like, I guess define that.
Well, the consecutive means one on top of another.
So they could potentially still, within a 6-month period, rent it for 2 days, let's say in January, and 2 days, basically January, February, March, April, May, and that would be
Yes.
fine. Yeah, then
Yes.
I'm fine with it. Okay. I thought I was reading somewhere that it was just they couldn't do it at all.
No,
Wow.
it's the word consecutive was put in there just so they can't domino them one after another.
Got it.
Okay, and it's a 3-day minimum lease rental, not a 2-day, right?
Correct.
Okay, because we were just talking 2-day. You can rent it for 2 days and come back and rent it for another 2 days. So it's
Got to
3
pay
days.
for 3.
True. Yeah, got it.
Okay. All right.
I was under my getting rid of that 3-day.
I just wanted to make sure that we were all in consensus with the 3-day. Anybody else have any questions? Somebody like to make a recommendation then?
I mean, oh, and then the other thing that we didn't talk about was the hotel motel taxes. And do we want to talk about it under this or separate? I know it's a separate ordinance, but
Yeah, it's separately, it's technically not on the agenda. There's still some things I'm working on that you probably are gonna have really good questions on that I can't answer yet. For example, who pays the tax? It's clear to me under the state statute that the tax is assessable. We can do it. But the question is the a rental platform going to impose the tax as part of the fee? Is the homeowner going to be responsible for the collection of the tax? And those things from a legal standpoint, I don't have a real good handle on yet. I'm working on it.
got it. Because it was listed in the other implications on that on page 2.
Yes, but it's obviously we're not ready to do an ordinance on it yet. When we
Got
come,
it.
we should be able to submit an ordinance on the zoning aspect of this. And the revenue side of it is not a zoning element.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I think everything's fine except that 3-day minimum. I think we could get rid of that given the other terms in here and conditions.
Anybody else feel to get rid of the 3-day?
Rather keep the 3-day.
Keep the 3-day.
I'm with Lee on this one, so I guess it's up to Patrick.
I'm fine with it as written.
Okay. Majority says it stays. All right, now can I have a recommendation to accept or move forward with it?
I made the motion to move forward with the ordinance on short-term rentals.
Second.
Okay. Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call?
Trustee Devitt,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Poleski,
Aye.
trustee Sarno.
Aye.
And we've gained ground. Okay, and we're moving forward. Thank you very much. Patrick and Bruce, thank you very much for all the effort and staff for what you've done on that. Karen, Jim, it turned out to be where we needed it to be. Okay, moving along. Village trustee, anybody have anything to report? Wayne.
I don't know when I should say this. So I'm going to take this opportunity to say that Lori Donovan called me from the village about a week ago and asked me to tell me that my water bill was seemingly double what it usually is. And I just told her, well, I've been watering the lawn a lot, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I said, thank you for calling. And then kind of went on my way. Well, I decided to look into it a little further a couple days later, and I saw my water heater was leaking water right into the sewer floor drain. So I want to tell you guys all there that the Village of Roselle actually takes care of us as residents. And it's not just a trustee. I'm sure they're doing it with others. When they see an anomaly going on, they're willing to let the residents know. So I wanted to say thank you to Lori and to the staff over there at the Village Hall for paying attention to us. Because seemingly for me, it takes a village to help me out. So thank you, Lori, and the staff that works with her.
Anybody else? Village clerk.
Just want to let you all know that election packets are available to pick up next Tuesday, the 22nd of September.
All righty. Village attorney.
I have no report, Mr. Mayor.
Jason, where'd you go there? Anything from administration?
No, nothing from administration.
All right, Chamber of Congress liaison. Patrick.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of the Roselle Chamber of Commerce, the business after hours will be held on September 23rd, starting at 5:30, and it will be hosted at Three Guys Pizza in on Urban Park in Itasca. That is all on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Okay, then moving right along to our consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine, procedural, and informational. self-explanatory and non-controversial in nature. Will be enacted in one motion. There will be no discussion on these items. And if I can have our attorney give us a summary of those items.
Thank you, Mayor. On tonight's consent agenda, we have presentation approval of the village board minutes of August 24, 2020. Approval of the first partial payment for the bottom and oxidation replacement project in the amount of $17,964. The approval of seventh partial payment for the Devlin influent pump and screening improvements in the amount of $474,716.60. And the approval of final payment for the Roselle Village Hall HVAC replacement in the amount of $41,000. That's all it's on the consent agenda, Mr. Mayor.
I have a motion to accept the consent agenda this
So
evening.
moved.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
All right, Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call then?
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Devitt,
Aye.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Poleski.
Aye.
And our motion is carried. Moving on to our regular agenda, community development. David, we have nothing for you this evening. Under administration, Barbara.
Okay, adopt a resolution approving an intergovernmental and subrecipient agreement for coronavirus relief funds with Cook County.
Second.
Any discussion?
Oop.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Devitt,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Poleski.
Aye.
And our motion is carried. Anything else this evening? Trustee Sarno.
No, nothing else, Mayor.
Okay, we're moving right along to fire. We have nothing for Mr. Devitt. Under police, Mr. Domke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the execution of a contract between the Village of Roselle and Giffen Systems for the replacement of the video camera and software server system.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, Lee.
Just for clarity, because I saw this item wasn't budgeted, it sounds like we do have the 16,000 in another budget line item that we are not using that will fund this, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, okay. Any others? Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Devitt,
Aye.
trustee Poleski,
Aye.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
And our motion is carried. Anything else, Mr. Domke?
No, Mr. Mayor, I have nothing.
All right, under Public Works, since Bruce isn't here, David, may I please have you take that for us?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the purchase of valve parts for the Devlin wastewater treatment plant from LAI Limited in the amount of $15,061.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'd be so kind for a roll call.
trustee Poleski,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Devitt.
Aye.
Our motion is carried. Anything else?
That is all.
All right, under Finance, Mr. Trejo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the accounts payable list for September 14th, 2020 in the amount of $2,012,826.73.
Second.
All right, any discussion on our bills list? Madam Clerk, if you would.
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Devitt,
Aye.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Abstain, please.
trustee Poleski.
Aye.
And our motion is carried. Anything else under Finance?
That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have no executive session this evening. Any other business? Okay, yes, Wayne.
Speaking in behalf of what Patrick brought up before, are you looking into the Halloween thing? And there's a lot of social media going back and forth on that in all kinds of different towns. So I think we should be involved in
We are
discussions.
looking for, yes, we are. We are looking for, go ahead, Jason.
As of today, the county, DuPage County is seeking guidance as well as Illinois Municipal League. So everyone is seeking guidance and likely is expected to receive the guidance from the state relative to trick or treating that then municipalities can take into consideration to make any future decision.
Do those just become advisories to the residents? The residents can still do it if they want to, or how does
I
that
think
work?
we'll see what the guidelines suggest.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Patrick.
I have one question. I keep on forgetting to email it in, so I'll just ask it here. I noticed the Main Street sign that was right outside of the Starbucks area that was in the two planters is gone. I don't know if I missed something or if that got weather related or someone hit it. Do we know anything about that?
I do.
Patty?
Okay.
The legs rotted. And so they took it out and they are fabricating something more sturdy and newer.
Oh, okay. Did that just happen recently?
A couple months ago.
Oh, shows how much I can. All right, thanks, Patty.
Anybody else? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Good night, everyone.